Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to make one of these cute little English paper piecing pincushions. You can either stuff it with stuffing, or in the case of this one I've stuffed it with crushed walnut shells so that as you put your pins in it helps keep them nice and sharp. It's a very easy project and you can do it easily in a morning or an afternoon, and it only needs scraps of fabric. So an ideal first project if you're just starting out on English paper piecing. So let's get started.
You will need 4 different coloured scraps of cotton fabric, 12 1-inch hexagon paper pieces, a glue stick, a pair of fabric scissors, a fabric pen, some crushed walnut shells or some stuffing, needle and thread, an iron and an ironing mat or an ironing board. Decide which colour fabric you'd like for your centrepiece, and then you only need to cut 2 of that particular colour because you just need one for the top and one for the bottom, and then the other 3 colours you need to cut 4 hexagons out of each one. The hexagons need to be a quarter of an inch bigger than your paper pieces. You can either make yourself a template or buy a template to cut them out, or you can just hold your paper piece on your fabric and cut around it a quarter of an inch bigger, allowing for that seam allowance. I made myself a template and then drew around the template before cutting them all out. I have 2 of the plain purple and then 4 each of all the other coloured fabrics that I chose. This is how to arrange your hexagons. Place one of your hexagon pieces of fabric with right side facing down, and then place your paper piece on top of it. Then take your glue stick and glue down one of the sides of the hexagon, not too close to the edge, and press it down, and then turn it and do the next side, making sure that you start on the fabric so you get a piece of glue on the fabric, and then fold it over and carry on turning and gluing until you've gone all the way around your paper piece. Don't go too close to the edge of your paper piece. Make sure you leave a little bit of a gap at the edge, otherwise when you come to sew your pieces together your needle will get stuck. That's the first one done. Just 11 more to go. When you've glued all 12 of your fabric pieces to your paper pieces, just check which order you'd like them to go in so you know where you're going to be sewing them. So arrange them in the order that you think looks best, and this is the order I want mine to go in. Take your middle hexagon and the first piece that you're going to attach to it, thread your needle and tie a knot in the end, and then you need to start sewing in one of the corners. So I like to try and bury my knot in one of the pieces of fabric that's folded over if I can. It's a good idea also to clip your 2 pieces together with a clover clip and then start sewing. So basically you take a bite of fabric from each of the hexagons and then pull your thread through and keep going like this all the way to the end of the first side, making sure that you only take a tiny little bit of fabric from each side and you keep your stitches nice and close together. When you get to the end of your first side, when you do your last stitch, thread your needle back through the loop to make a little knot just to hold it nice and secure. Then open out your first 2 pieces and then decide which piece you're going to add next. Don't cut your thread at this point because we're just going to carry on sewing. When you've decided which hexagon you're going to use next, place it right side facing where you'd like to join it. Then hold it in place with the clover clip, and then you can start sewing. But we're going to do exactly the same as we did at the end, and we're going to start by doing our first stitch and then threading our needle back through the loop that we've made, pulling it tight to form a knot. You may notice that I have actually started at the opposite end to where I left off, and this is fine to do. I don't know whether you can see, but I have dragged my thread all the way along to the other end of the hexagon so that I can start at one end, go all the way to the middle and then carry on going along the next side without taking a break. And this is fine to do when English paper piecing. You can carry your thread along. Continue sewing all the way to the end of this side of the hexagon, and then when you get to the end we're going to do exactly the same as we did before. On the last stitch we're going to do our stitch and then thread our needle back through the new loop, to make a knot, to make it a little bit more secure, because these are the places that might take the most wear at the corners. And then we can carry on sewing along the next side. And again, I've moved my clover clip to a more suitable place, and then again carry on sewing, taking little bites from each side of the hexagons all the way along this side until you get right to the end. And when you get to the end of this side, do exactly the same as before. On your last stitch, thread your needle back through the loop to make a little knot, and now we have 3 pieces joined together, and we can add our 4th piece. I'm actually just doing another stitch because I hadn't gone quite far enough. I'm actually doing another 2 stitches, and then again I'll thread my needle through the loop to make a bit of a knot. There we are, that's the first 3. Number 4 is going to go on now. Carry on adding your hexagons until you have all 6 joined together, and that will be all 6 for the front of your pincushion, and then you'll need to start the same process all over again to do another 6 to make the back of your pincushion. When you've joined all your hexagons together for both your front and your back, place them together with right side spacing and match up all the fabrics so you've got the same fabric on the front joining the same fabric on the back. Then either pin or clip them together. I'm using clover clips for this. Thread a needle and tie a knot in the end, and then you need to sew all the way around the edge of your pincushion. Well, I say all the way around, you're not going to sew all the way around because you're going to leave a small little hole for stuffing it, but you get the idea. So pretty much the same as we sewed the hexagons together, we're just going to take a little bite of fabric from each side of our hexagons, one from the front, one from the back. Thread your needle through and pull it, and keep going all the way around your hexagon pincushion. I do the same as I did before at the corners, whether it's an outside corner or an inside corner. I thread my needle back through the loop to make a knot, just to make it more secure on the corners. You won't want to watch me sewing all the way around, but I'm sure you get the idea. And don't forget to leave your hole for your stuffing. Now it's all sewn together, you can remove your paper pieces. This isn't too difficult to do at all. Just lift the seams up a little bit and pull out the pieces of paper. You need to do this on both of the sides. As I say, if you don't put too much glue on, they do come out quite easily. Then turn your pincushion the right side out by pushing the insides out through the hole that you left, which isn't that difficult to do. Turn it the right way out, pushing out all of the corners as you go. And if you've got a tool or something pointed, use that to push out all of the corners. When it's all turned the right way round and you've pushed all the corners out, you can give it a quick press, paying particular attention to all of the corners, and especially where you've left the opening, because as you can see, some of my seams are poking out, so you just need to turn those seams back under and give it a good press. Next, you need to stuff your pincushion, and you can either do it with polyester stuffing as I'm doing here, or if you prefer, you can stuff it with crushed walnut shells. Make sure that you push the stuffing well down into all of the corners. If you prefer, you can stuff your pincushion with crushed walnut shells, and I think this is by far the best way. I used a funnel made out of paper because I don't have a funnel. If you do have a funnel with a small nozzle, then use that. But if not, just make a cone out of paper and fill your pincushion using that. You do need to shake it a little bit to get the crushed walnuts to move about, and also I used my tool that I use for pushing out my corners to get the crushed walnuts into all of the corners. If you keep giving the pincushion a shake, all the walnuts seem to sink down to the bottom, so shake it every now and again and then keep filling. When I thought I'd nearly filled it to the top, I did put a little bit of the polyester stuffing in the top part, just to make it a little bit easier for me to sew together, so I didn't have all of the crushed walnuts falling out. So I just used it as a little bit of a plug and then I pinned it. The only thing left to do now is to close the opening. You can either do it with a whip stitch, or if you know how to do a ladder stitch, then do a ladder stitch. It doesn't really matter, but if you do a ladder stitch then you can barely see the stitches. Whether you stuffed it with the crushed walnuts or with stuffing, you still need to close this opening. Whichever way you've done it, you've got to close the opening. So as I said, you can either do it with a whip stitch or you can do a ladder stitch. But make sure whatever you do nice neat stitches and keep them close together, so none of those walnut shells are going to come out of an opening anywhere. When you get to the end, just make sure that you do a couple of really good knots before finishing off and burying your thread back inside your pincushion. And that's your pincushion finished.
Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, could you please consider subscribing to my channel? Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.